My name is Chevine Frank, a teacher of Divinity. And before I begin teaching, I would like to inform you that COVID is real, but it's a disease we can prevent by putting on our masks and constant sanitization. I'm not putting it on because I'm alone, and the moment I'm out into the crowds, I have to put it on. I'm going to be teaching paper 245/1. We call it the Old Testament. And basically, it is senior 5. And my main point of concern today will concern the Exodus. The Exodus. One of my professors at the university used to call it the Exodus. So it depends on how you wish to pronounce it, but it is the Exodus. In the layman's language, and in relation to the subject matter, we refer to the Exodus as the movement of the Israelites from their bondage of slavery. Remember, they were in bondage of slavery in a country called Egypt. Most famous of Egypt is, most of you who know Muhammad Salah, whenever you talk about Egypt, they refer to Egypt, Muhammad Salah's Egypt. So, you remember that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt for 430 years. 430 years. A time came when the Lord was much concerned about them. So we look at the movement of the Israelites from the bondage of slavery in Egypt, where they had spent a total of 430 years, to the land that had been promised to the Israelites by God. The time had come for the fulfillment of the promise that had been made to Abraham. Briefly, we want to look at how did the Israelites land into Egypt. When you go back to history, because we need to know the history before we handle other subject matters. Now, we all know a great man of God by the name of Abraham. Abraham had a son at a very old age, and the son was called Isaac. So from Abraham, we had Isaac. And from Isaac, Isaac bore a son called Jacob. Now, from Jacob, we had 12 sons, or the 12 sons of Jacob. These 12 sons made or evolved into the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, from Jacob, from the 12 sons of Jacob, there was one son who was most loved by Jacob. It's a mistake that parents make of loving children unequally. But here we see Jacob loving a son by the name of Joseph. Joseph was so much loved by his father. And this brought about jealousy within the family. So they wanted to find means of getting rid of this most loved son. And what they did was to sell Joseph to the Egyptians. Now, when Joseph was sold to the Egyptians, little did they know that Joseph had the favor of the Lord. The Lord was always with him. So when Joseph was sold to the Egyptians, he was with a master. He was sold to a master called Potiphar. So Joseph was working as a slave under Potiphar. But Potiphar loved Joseph so much. He put him in charge of everything. So, as Potiphar kept watching Joseph, Joseph was always a perfect man. And whatever he handled had the blessings of the Lord. Time came when Potiphar's wife really felt love for Joseph. And eventually, he wanted Joseph to make love to him. But Joseph was like, no, I can't go against my master's instructions. That's wrong. So they wanted to find means of getting rid of Joseph, because they got to know that Joseph, much as he was a slave, was loved so much by Potiphar. So Potiphar's wife went ahead and found ways of falsifying accusations against Joseph of rape. So eventually, I won't go very deep into the story, it will take us a lot of time, but we see Potiphar believing in the accusations that Joseph wanted to rape his wife, and we see Joseph being put in prison. So it's a long story, but to cut it short, is that Joseph had that blessing of the Lord of interpretation of dreams. Much as he was arrested in the prisons in Egypt, he could interpret dreams which could amuse the king. At the end of the day, we see him still outstanding amongst the prisoners. So, as we move forward, we see to it that Potiphar eventually gained more confidence in Joseph and made him a governor. We see now famine happening in the land where Joseph's brothers came from, which forced Jacob to send his children to go to Egypt because there was surplus of food in Egypt, yet there was famine in Canaan. So at the end of the day, we see Joseph receiving his brothers who had come to look for food. Joseph, by the grace of the Lord, was able to identify his brothers. But he was a governor. He was a very recognized man, a governor in Egypt. He received them and gave them plenty of food to take back because he knew his father was there and was starving. So that is how I can briefly tell the short story. But as a result of these brothers going to Egypt, many people kept following those brothers of Joseph. So many people came from Egypt, from Joseph's land, Canaan, and they moved to Egypt. Very many moved to Egypt. Very many moved to Egypt in search for food, and many stayed there permanently. So there was a problem of the increasing number. So the Egyptians were now afraid of what would happen if these numbers increase. But still the numbers kept increasing. So we want to look at, as a result of the incrementing number of Israelites into Egypt and the fear of the leaders, what happened? What happened was that the Egyptians wanted to find means of reducing the increasing population of the Israelites into Egypt because they are fearful of what would happen. So we would like to look at the problems. Let's look at the problems. First, by the Israelites in Egypt. Remember, these are slaves. These are people who are already in Egypt. As they are there, the numbers have increased. What problem did they face as a result of their stay in Egypt? Remember, the numbers have increased. The pioneer of the Israelites into Egypt is Joseph, governor. Now, many are flocking into Egypt. The leaders are afraid. The numbers have surged. So they wish to find means of reducing their numbers such that they don't overtake them. So we see that they were forced into labor. So one of the problems was forced labor. They were forced into labor. Forced labor, basically working for no pay. They were forced to make bricks, huge bricks, burn them with reeds. If you know what we mean by reeds, reeds. These are very small sugarcane-like plants that burn easily. But if you burn bricks with reeds, then it is really a very taxing job. Okay? So, another problem was the baby Hebrew boys. The babies were thrown into the Nile. Into the Nile River. Why were they thrown into the Nile River? Because the leaders were fighting the ever-increasing population of the Israelites. So they wanted to find means of reducing the population. Then, we see forced marriage. They also faced the problem of forced marriage. Forced marriage of Hebrew girls. Hebrew girls to the Egyptian men. You all know what it means, forcing your love onto someone you don't love. It was really a taxing moment. Then rationed the food. They were given little food. They they were given very little food. Very little food to basically to survive. That was also another big problem. Then there was another problem of public declaration. Public declaration of Israelites. Public declaration of Israelites as slaves. Public declaration of Israelites as slaves. So they became publicly known as slaves, slaves of the Egyptians. It was really so bad. Then, lastly, they were accused. Accusation of Israelites of crimes. False accusation of Israelites of crimes. For example, we've seen the example of Moses, or rather Joseph, who was accused of raping Potiphar's wife, which was very wrong. So those are some of the highlights of the problems that the Israelites faced when they were in Egypt. Is a man called Moses. The main actor is the man called Moses. Now, we would like to look at who was Moses. Moses was a Hebrew, born to Hebrew parents, and he was a Levite. Levites were the legally permitted practicing priests of the Israelites. And Moses, being a Hebrew, was still from the Levites. So, we want to look at the birth of Moses. Moses was born at a time of tyranny, a time when the Egyptians were fearful of the rising numbers and fame of the Israelites. Remember that these were people who were blessed. By the way, even up to today, Israelites are believed to be the wisest people on earth. That is why the Americans would always want to associate with them. You play with the Israelites, then you are playing with America. You attack the Israelites, then you are attacking America. Because these are the blessed people with a lot of intelligence, with very high IQs. So Moses was born to Hebrew parents. And it was a time when the Hebrew boys were being thrown into the Nile. A time when the Hebrew boys were being hunted by Pharaoh, Seti II, to kill them because of the fear. Now, during that time is when we see the birth of Moses. Now, based on what was happening in Egypt, Moses' mother was fearful of what would happen to his boy, his little beautiful boy, baby boy. So, we see Moses born to Hebrew parents. Now, after being born, his mother was like, my boy is going to be killed. What should I do? So she made a watertight basket to keep Moses there. Initially, she tried hiding Moses, breastfeeding Moses in hiding. But after 3 months, she couldn't do it anymore. So she made a watertight basket. We see a watertight basket. A watertight basket is a basket where water can't go through, and covered Moses. It was a coincidence that at that very time was a time when the Pharaoh's daughters were by the banks of the river. And the watertight basket was put at a point where it could sail, and it was viewed by the bathing girls. So, after the recognition of the watertight basket, one of the Pharaoh's daughters sent for the basket. And what was in the basket? What was in the basket was a beautiful baby boy of 3 months by the name of. By then, that beautiful baby boy didn't have a name. It was nameless, as one of the musicians in Kenya. Nameless. So, when the watertight basket was brought closer to the daughter of the Pharaoh, the Pharaoh's daughter saw the boy and was so happy to see such a beautiful baby boy. And she said, "What a beauty. Draw him out of the Nile." And she was very much pleased to see the baby boy. Now, this woman who drew Moses out of the watertight basket was given conditions, because this daughter told this nurse, "What you have seen should be buried in the Nile. You should never tell anybody that this is not my son. This one is now my son. I name him Moses because I have drawn him out of the water." So that is where we see the name coming from. So we are seeing the origin of the name Moses, drawn out of the water, drawn out of the Nile. The name is Moses. I name him Moses because I have drawn him out of the water. But what you have seen now should be buried in the Nile. Do not let anybody know that this is not my son. This is my son from now and forever. So Moses was lucky that his health helped him to stand the harsh conditions of the banks of the river Nile. You know what happens by the banks of the river? There are snakes, there are harmful, very itchy plants, crocodiles, hippopotamus, but none harmed him. So Moses was lucky. Moses had the blessing of the Lord right away from the beginning. So, fortunately still, Moses was given to be nursed by his own mother. That was a miracle. So Moses continued breastfeeding from his original mother, because remember, she was a slave. But I think it was all God made, because she's the very person who was called to nurse Moses. So Moses kept breastfeeding the mother. So Moses grew as a very healthy boy in the hands of the nurse, not knowing that the nurse was the mother. So we are seeing the most important journey of the Exodus, and we are seeing a key player in the journey by the names of Moses. We are seeing his birth. Okay? Now, after the birth of Moses, and after going through all that we have seen, we want to look at how did he then be called by the Lord to come and rescue the people who had been made slaves way back in Egypt. That pushes us to pushes us to the call of Moses. The call of Moses. Now, in our subject matter, sometimes, and by the end of this lesson, I want my students to be in position to answer this question. Reference question before we go there is comment on the call. Comment on the call of Moses. Comment on the call of Moses. By the end of the lesson, we must be in position to answer that question. I want us to read the Bible. This was called because our Bible is our most important textbook. Other books can exist, but our most important textbook is the Bible. So I want to read the call of Moses. Yes. Now we've seen Moses. I pulled him out of water, and so I named him. So I named him Moses. So you've seen the origin of the name of Moses. And now we see Moses after his birth being nursed by his mother, now growing up in the palace of the Pharaoh, being treated as a prince of Egypt. But when Moses had grown up into a man, he was seeing how the Israelites were being mistreated under slavery. And when we refer to our Bible, I told you this is our textbook. It says, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his people, the Hebrews, and he saw how they were forced to do hard labor. He even saw an Egyptian kill a Hebrew. Now, this is where we have a problem. Now, when he saw an Egyptian kill an Hebrew, that is now when Moses lost his temper. He fought and killed an Egyptian and buried him. But little did he know that someone had seen him do that. So, another time when he confronted another man, the man bluntly told him, "Do you want to kill me as you killed the other Egyptian?" Moses got to know that people had got to know his crime. So he said, "What is coming ahead is this report reaching the Pharaoh, and I'll be killed." So we see Moses now escaping from Egypt to Midian for refuge because of fear of what would happen to him. Because now he had become a criminal after killing an Egyptian, having been seen by some people. Of course, the report was to reach the Pharaoh, and Moses was to either be killed or be imprisoned. But the nationalism, the patriotism of Moses developed when he saw his fellow Hebrews being subjected to that kind of suffering, slavery. He felt touched. Some of you have gone ahead, very many movies have been produced about Moses' life. And in some of the movies, they show you how an elderly lady in one of the movies of the Exodus, an elderly lady got closer to Moses and told him, "You are not an Egyptian, you are a Hebrew." Moses went ahead to make more research about his ancestry. And Moses got to know that much as I'm a prince of Egypt, I am not an Egyptian. I'm not. I'm Hebrew. So that patriotism and nationality developed. That is why we saw him now fight the Egyptian and killed him. So we see him escaping to Midian. Where did he go after escaping? He went to a man called Jethro. Jethro was a priest. This man Jethro later became his father-in-law, because Moses married Jethro's daughter. Now, as you know, a man, you can't sit in someone's home for no good reason. So Moses adopted, you imagine, from being a prince now to being a shepherd looking after sheep and goats for his father-in-law. But all this is happening as a result of preparation. You see, there's something that happened to us, but when we don't know what is really happening, but it's the blessing of the Lord, it's the plan of the Lord. All this was happening when God was preparing Moses for a bigger task, a very big task, which nobody knew, but Moses said nobody, because he referred to himself as a nobody. As we move forward, you will see him referring to himself, because he left all the treasures and all the comfortable life in Egypt and offered himself to be a shepherd of his father-in-law. So that means the Lord was now preparing him. Now, after reaching Jethro's home, a practicing priest, you can imagine. You see how the Lord is preparing Moses. A practicing priest, Jethro. Now, we shall also have a question that is to do with how was Moses' life a preparation for his big task ahead. We've seen him being born in the times of tyranny. We've seen him now being nursed by his own mother. That was miraculous. We've seen him being brought up into the palace of the Pharaoh. He's being prepared. Now, we see him now killing an Egyptian who was fighting an Israelite. Now, we see some people, seeing the crime he committed, and we see him now running away from Egypt to Midian. Now, we see Moses now encountering with Jethro, who later becomes his father-in-law, being given a task of looking after his sheep and goats. All that is the plan of the Lord in preparation for this big task that was to come ahead of him. So our question is, how was Moses' life in preparation for his future leadership? How was Moses' life in preparation for his future? Okay? How was Moses' life a preparation for his future task of liberation of the Israelites? This is the question mark. So, we've seen that kind of chronology in his life. We are now with Jethro, his father-in-law. We are now with the new task of being a shepherd of Jethro. Remember, being a shepherd is equally a very big task. There are wolves, there are lions, there are other wild animals that would wish to eat up the sheep, would wish to eat up the goats. So as a shepherd, you are safeguarding the sheep, you are safeguarding the goats against these wild and very strong animals. That was the role of Moses. So that means Moses' heart became hardened. Moses' skills of safeguard became more advanced. He was in position to defend the animals of his father-in-law. Because we don't have any verse in the Bible which shows us that Jethro's animals were attacked and killed. No. Meaning, he played his role so well. It was during that very time when the Lord appeared to Moses by the hills of Mount Sinai. Moses didn't know that probably the Lord would meet him because Moses had not known the Lord. Moses was used to the gods of the Egyptians. You know, Egyptians have their gods. So now we want to look at how was the encounter between God and Moses on Mount Sinai. As I've always told you, our best textbook is always the Bible. I want us to read this call together. My students can also get your Bibles and read together very fast, and we see. Because after reading, we shall be in position to know the characteristics of God. We shall be getting to know the characteristics of man in our reading. And still, we shall also be answering our question of the comment on the call of Moses by God, according to Exodus chapter 3. One day, while Moses was taking care of the sheep and goats of his father-in-law Jethro, as I told you, the priest of Midian. Why didn't Moses go to any other person for refuge? But he went to the priest of Midian because the Lord was preparing him for that big task. He led the flock across the desert and came to Sinai, the holy mountain. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him as a flame coming from the middle of the bush. So the flame is appearing, the flame is burning, but it's not getting consumed. That is strange. Moses saw that the bush was on fire, but it was not burning up. This is strange, he thought. Why isn't the bush burning up? I'll get closer and see. You come across something that is very, very strange. You see a bush burning, but it's not getting consumed. In fact, it's like a vision. It's as if you're in a dream. That's why you may touch yourself and say, am I dreaming one? So that was the state Moses was in. A bush is burning, but not getting consumed. Okay? When the Lord saw that Moses was coming closer, he called to him from the middle of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. Now, as we move ahead of our discussion, we shall see that God knew Moses by name. It is not Moses who told God that I'm calling Moses. No. God knew Moses, but called him Moses, Moses. And in fact, as we move forward, we shall see that they got some disagreements with God somehow, somewhere. Because he himself also demanded to know the name of the Lord. He answered, yes, here I am. God said, do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, because you are standing on holy ground. I am the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Moses covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. This is very important. Then the Lord said, I have seen how cruel my people are being treated in Egypt. I have heard them cry out to be rescued from their slave brothers. I know all about their suffering, and so I have come down to rescue them from the Egyptians and bring them out of Egypt to a spacious land which is rich and fertile, and in which the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites now live. I have indeed heard the cry of my people, and I see how the Egyptians are oppressing them. Now I am sending you to the king of Egypt so that you can lead my people out of his country. So we are looking at Moses, we are looking at God assigning Moses the responsibility to go and rescue his people out of suffering. But now, at the back of Moses, God is sending him to go to Egypt. Imagine, where this man had killed an Egyptian, where reports had already reached the Pharaoh. That is why, as we move ahead, we shall see that Moses was hesitant in the beginning. He was like, now, how can I go and face the Pharaoh? What should I tell him? I was raised as a prince of Egypt. I went ahead and violated the position of being a prince. I killed an Egyptian. I am being hunted. No, God. No, that mistake can't be made. I can't go back to Egypt. I am a wanted man. I am a criminal. That was in his heart. But Moses said to God, I am nobody. I am nobody. How can I go to the king and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? God answered, I'll be with you, and when you bring people out of Egypt, you will worship me on this mountain. That will be the proof that I have sent you. But Moses replied, when I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your ancestors sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? So what can I tell them? God said, I am who I am. This is what you must say to them. The one who is called I am has sent me to you. Tell the Israelites that I, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, have sent you to them. This is my name forever. This is what all future generations are to call me. Go and gather the leaders of Israel together and tell them that I, the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, have appeared to you. Now, as we move forward, we see the Lord telling Moses all these words to empower him, to ensure that he comes to believe in him and goes ahead to rescue the Israelites. So, basically, that is to do with the call of Moses. We are, or we have been in position to answer this question. Comment on the call of Moses by God according, we can add here, according to Exodus according to Exodus chapter 3. Okay? So we can be in position to comment. Sometimes we are in position to answer that question, comment on the call of Moses, according to Exodus 3. We want to look at something also very important. Why did Moses, demand to know? To know the name. Demand to know the name. Why did Moses demand to know the name of God? Or sometimes account for Moses' demand. Account for Moses' demand for the name of the Lord. Because in our discussion, basically we want to know, Moses was so much interested. He was like, when the Israelites asked me that which God had sent you to us, what should I tell them? So Moses was strategizing to know which God was sending him. Because remember, the background of Moses is that he's in Egypt, he was in Egypt, where there are very many gods. The God of the sun, the God of the moon, the God of nature, the God of fertility. So in whichever occasion, there was a God assigned. Now, this is an encounter with another God. So what is your name? Which God are you talking about? So, we want to know the reasons why why Moses demanded to know the name of God. One is because he wanted to know his characteristics. How does he behave? Who is he? What are the goods and the bads? How do you look like? What is your origin? Who are you? Okay? So those are some of the things that Moses really wanted an explanation. Then, he wanted to give an answer. Give an answer to the Israelites. In case the Israelites asked me, who is that God who has sent you? Who has sent you to us? Moses would be in position to answer this question. And in fact, when we move ahead, because they went ahead and asked him. But the Lord, in our reading, we've seen, he told him, I am the Lord of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Definitely, the Lord's answer was very straight. What is your name? I am who I am. The one called I am has sent me to you. So, you find that Moses' initial hesitance to know the name of God was really very fundamental. Because when they asked him, he was in position to tell them. That was a very good answer. So they thought, so the Lord of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has sent this man to us. We definitely have to obey. So that was a very good question. Then it was a new experience. a new experience of Moses to encounter such a being appearing to him in a burning bush, not getting consumed. This is strange. Who are you? Who appears like that? I've never come across this. Can you please tell me about yourself? Who are you? This is a very, very, very strange. Then, practically, he wanted to evade responsibility. He was fearful of this responsibility because rescuing the Israelites was not something very easy. So he was trying to find means of avoiding the big responsibility that was accorded to him. Will I be able to tell those people to follow me? Is it possible? I don't know. Let me find means of excusing myself, saying that I don't go for that responsibility. I am a criminal. I go back to the Israelites, face the Pharaoh, having killed an Egyptian. No. So he was trying to find means of evading responsibility by putting up excuses. Then he wanted to use God's name. He wanted to use God's name. I wanted to use God's name to convince the Israelites. As I've told you, I am the God of your ancestors. Definitely, the Israelites are convinced that this is the true God we are supposed to worship. So he was using that to ensure that they could be followed. And two, alongside convincing the Israelites, he also wanted to use that same name to convince the Pharaoh. Because when you go deeper into the Bible, you will find that the Lord himself hardened the heart of the Pharaoh. But the logic behind the hardening of the heart of the Pharaoh was to further manifest his power. Was further to show that I am the God of all gods. I am more powerful than any other Egyptian god here. He hardened the heart of the Pharaoh, and that is when we came to what we call the 10 plagues. Just divert a bit. You see that plague after plague. This is fire. These are gnats. This is darkness. Death of the firstborn. God was like, let me show you that I am the Lord. That I am God. Because if he had softened the heart of the Pharaoh, these 10 plagues wouldn't have happened. But he hardened his heart. The Lord hardened the heart of the Pharaoh such that the people, the Israelites, the Egyptians, and the other neighbors could see who the Lord of Abraham was and how strong he was. Recently in Australia, we saw what was termed as a plague, where rats invaded a prison and just all the prison warders, and they were even forced to change the prisoners from that prison to another prison. Then he also wanted to know the history of the God who was sending Moses. Then God, another one is that God had called Moses by name. Remember, say, Moses, Moses. So if you call me by name, now my name is Frank. You call me Frank. I say, oh, I would wish to ask, how did you get to know me? Then I would also, can you also please tell me your name? My name is Frank. Yes. Can you also? So that is a instance I can also take. God called Moses by name, Moses, Moses. So Moses also wished to know the person who called him by name. Then we talked about wanting to know the origin of the God. You see, in Buganda, for instance, in Buganda, when I tell you that I am Chayune, it means I originate from somewhere. I am from the Nyoni clan. The Baganda have a way of saying Tambla. Okay? Where you really have to talk about some of your great-grandparents, your parents, etc. So by just talking about your name, it reveals a lot about you. So Moses wanted that revelation from the Lord. That is why he insisted to know the name of God. Of course, I'll be coming back to add more on what we've learned today. But as you're at home, please make yourselves busy. Avoid unnecessary movements. We've lost very many people due to COVID-19. And the new variant is still killing very many. We still need your alignment. Avoid unnecessary movements. Sanitize. Stay home. As these lessons reach you, ensure that all the assignments are done as we wait for the situation to get better. I know the Lord is going to make a miracle, and this virus will go away. We shall come back to normal. I wish you the best of the stay before we meet again. Thank you.